7:01 p.m. And we ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Abbott,
Present.
trustee Krusek,
Present.
trustee Page,
Present.
trustee Blair,
Present.
Mayor Cunningham.
Present.
Quorum established.
Thank you very much. If you would please join us in a moment of silence. And as we dedicate tonight's meeting in the memory and honor of two Woodridge neighbors and friends, Mrs. Cindy Fichter and Miss Colleen Hector. We send our deepest sympathy, thoughts, and prayers to their loving families, friends, and neighbors. We know that they will be missed. If you would please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening, being said by our Library Executive Director, Ms. Dubay.
I pledge allegiance.
This evening, we do have a recognition, although the recognition on Melissa will be moved into a future date. But I do want to make a special announcement, letting everyone know in Woodridge that we do have Eagle Scout ceremonies this weekend. We actually have two. So our first Eagle, and congratulations to Ethan Erpenbach, Boy Scout Troop 516 out of Prince of Peace, and then Ryan Beulah, Boy Scout Troop 263. Both are going to be hosting family and friends and their troops for their Eagle Scout Courts of Honor this weekend. Like I said, as a community, we are so proud of Ethan and Ryan and their troops and their families. This is such a huge achievement in life, and we want to be sure to recognize them and congratulate them on achieving the highest honor in Boy Scouts. So congratulations to them all, and a shout out for them, because I know that both have worked very proudly in scouting, and I want to be sure that we congratulate them. So thank you all for that. So we're going to move right to our public hearing this evening, which is the proposed 2023 village budget. And I'm going to ask if there were any comments from the public from our administrator.
Mayor, we have not received any prior written public comments on this matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'm going to ask for a motion, please, to open the public hearing for the proposed FY 2023 village budget.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Blair. Going to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Abbott,
Present.
trustee Krusek,
Present.
trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And again, I want to make sure that we have correct for the record. This was a motion to open the public hearing. I believe trustee Abbott and trustee Krusek, your answer was present. Did you want to make sure that you were clear for the record? Trustee Krusek?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. I know we do have a presentation this evening by our finance director, Nadine Aletto.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Nadine Aletto.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. Tonight's public hearing presentation gives a very brief, a very high level overview of our budget as well as the libraries. And so for those viewers that would be interested in seeing all of the detail that makes up our fiscal 2023 budget, the draft budget is currently available on the village's website, or a copy is available at the library as well as at Village Hall during normal business hours. Okay, first I want to get into just a really quick look at our general fund for the end of the year. So our updated year-end expectations show that revenues are at about 27.2 million. We're expecting to end the year at that. That is considerably higher than our budget of just under 22 million. Now, half of that $5 million increase is our ARPA funds that we did recognize this year. And in addition to that, we have seen nice growth in our tax revenues, especially our sales and our income taxes. Expenditures are also really coincidentally, anticipated to come in higher than budget as well at $27.2 million. That is almost entirely due to a transfer of $3.8 million in reserves to the Water and Sewer Fund to pay for our water meter replacement program. That is an interfund loan, and the Water and Sewer Fund will repay this loan over a period of the next 15 years. And that was not budgeted originally. The balance in the general fund is expected to end the year at about the same amount as the beginning of the year. So originally we were budgeting a deficit of about $1.5 million. This now slightly positive variance is due to the recognition of ARPA funds that better than expected sales taxes as well as income taxes. And then those were offset by that loan I just spoke of. Based on our year-end estimates, our ending fund balance is expected to be about $20.2 million. That does represent 77% unassigned fund balance for the end of the year. Okay, moving on to our 2023 budget. Every year, we face any number of challenges that we must navigate through when we are preparing our annual budget. And so this year, we were impacted by the threat of a looming recession, historic inflation levels, supply chain issues, a labor market shortage, continued market volatility, which impacts our pension funding requirements, as well as our aging infrastructure that is increasing our funding needs for capital projects. Across all of our funds, the estimated beginning fund balance is $127 million. We have revenues that are budgeted about $70 million, expenditures at $80.7 million. So that results in a spend down of reserves of just under $11 million. It will result in an ending fund balance that is budgeted at this time of $117 million. Now, the fiscal 2023 budget before you tonight does reflect the village's mission of achieving a high quality of life by providing superior services in a fiscally responsible manner. It is also balanced through the planned spend down of reserves for capital projects, most notably the police facility and the Public Works cold storage projects, and that is expected to be completed in 2023. This budget also invests significant dollars in our water system infrastructure improvements, including water main replacements, as well as a village-wide water meter replacement program, as well as additional funding for roadway maintenance, and that's using a portion of our general fund surplus that was created by our ARPA funds. So fiscal 2023 total revenues, this is across all of our funds, as I mentioned earlier, $70 million. That's nearly 18% more than this current year's budget. Now, the primary reasons for that is the recognition of these ARPA dollars that I keep talking about. This will be the second half that we recognize in 2023, and those will be done, as well as our sales and income taxes. We expect them to continue to be strong into 2023. Now, as you can see from this chart, the village does have a diversified revenue base. We have 17% of all of our funds. They come from intergovernmental revenues, and those are things such as income taxes. We have 16% of our revenues that come from user charges. Those are primarily water and sewer fund related. And then we have 15% that are specifically sales tax revenues. Revenues in 2023 in this chart here does include $11 million in bond proceeds. That is the final bond issuance. That's the amount that's needed to finish funding that project. There is discussion that the board may use some capital project fund reserves. So that will be vetted in 2023. We'll come back before the board and they can ultimately determine how much they want to bond and how much they want to use reserves for. But the budget currently reflects the entire $11 million. Fiscal 2023 expenditures across all of our funds, just under $81 million. That's about 5% more than this current year's budget. And that's really a combination of inflationary pressure that we've been facing and maintaining our service levels. So some of that is expected, but we also do have some significant capital projects that are slated for 2023. And that's almost $36 million. That's the largest expenditure in the village next year is capital. That's followed then by personnel at $14.5 million, and that's consistent with previous year's expenses, given that the village is a service-based business. So here are some of the capital projects that are slated to be done in the general fund. So these are non-water related projects. Of the 36 million, about 24 million of them are non-water related. And so here are some of the larger projects. We did talk already about the Police and Public Works Facilities project. We have over $3 million in road improvements and 2.8 million in maintenance improvements to our existing buildings that we have. And then you can see here, these are just some of the smaller projects. The full list of the projects is in our draft budget. Looking specifically at our general fund for fiscal 2023, we are planning to have 26.6 million in revenues against 25.5 million in expenditures. And so we expect a budget surplus this year of $1.2 million. Now, this is really the recognition of the second half of our ARPA funding that we received. So if we didn't have that coming in, we'd actually be faced with about $1 million deficit. And so as we've been talking about in years past, we are still having an operating deficit in the general fund. It's not as bad as it has been in years past due to the increase in income and sales taxes, which is nice, but it is something that the board will need to be conscious of, and we continue to work on eliminating. The general fund is anticipated to end 2023 with an ending fund balance of about 21.4 million, which represents 73% fund balance at the end of the year. General fund revenues here, of that 26 million, 33% of that is revenues from other governments, followed by 29% in sales taxes and then 13% in property taxes. So just slightly different makeup in the general fund as opposed to entire fund, all funds across the board. Our general fund expenditures, they're budgeted at 25.5 million and are 2 million more than fiscal year 2022. Primarily due to a $1 million transfer for funding for water main replacements. We've also allocated an additional 500,000 for roadway maintenance. Those are using some general fund reserve surplus that we have from ARPA dollars that the board recognized as what they wanted to use for some surplus. Other increases include services, which reflects the addition of the GAD group for some additional IT support. We did add shopping center grant programs, as well as an increase in facility maintenance services to reflect the new police building that's being built. The top expense here that you see in the general fund is personnel, and just like the library that you'll see, we are a service-based business, and so we would expect this to be our largest source of expense in the general fund. Moving on to the water and sewer fund, we have revenues for 2023 estimated at 12.3 million, and we have expenditures totaling 16.4 million for a planned spend down of reserves of approximately $4 million. That results in an ending cash and investment balance in this fund of $5.7 million. Looking at the revenues in more detail, almost all of the revenues in the water and sewer fund are user charges, and they're in an amount sufficient in order to cover the cost of operating a water and sewer fund. We have revenues of just under 12.3 million. That is about 1.5% higher than this year's budget. We do have in the budget a anticipated 30-cent increase per 1,000 gallons in the capital improvement fee. That is something the board will be voting on in the next board meeting. There's also included in here a 21-cent increase in our water rates, which reflects strictly the cost increase that we're going to see from DuPage Water Commission as a result of increases from the city of Chicago to purchase our water. Expenditures here for next year total 16.4 million. The largest cost center in this fund is water operations that is budgeted at $11 million for 23. And almost half of that cost is just to purchase the water from DuPage Water Commission. Sanitary services here, as you see on this chart, is the second largest cost center, and that's at 3.5 million. Of that 3.5 million, nearly almost 3 million is budgeted for capital improvements in the coming year. So here are some of the capital projects in the water and sewer fund. We have $11 million budgeted for next year. We have 3.4 million for water main replacements, 3.8 million in water meter replacements, and 2 million in sanitary sewer improvements, as well as several smaller projects that you see listed here on the chart. And that concludes my presentation tonight on the village's budget. Before I move to the library, is there any questions that I could answer?
I do have a question. Just, I know
Yes.
you've shared this with us before. The second half of the ARPA dollars, when will that be coming into the village?
It will come, we received it already and it's sitting in a liability account and it will be recognized in 2023.
Thank you.
You're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Okay, thank you very much.
Wonderful. Okay. So Library Director Pam Dubay is in the audience tonight and will be available to answer any questions that you have on her budget tonight. The Library Board did approve their budget for 2023 on October 19th. However, since the library is not their own separate library district, the budget is also approved by the Village Board, and that's why it's before you tonight. So some highlights of the library's budget. Total for next year is $4.2 million. That is an increase of about $174,000. The reason for that increase is due to some capital projects that have been previously delayed. Those include roof replacements as well as some exterior painting. They've also seen some historic inflation levels, as we all have. Those increase the costs for the library. They're operating in personnel, utilities, printing, internet, as well as their materials. In addition to the increased costs, the library has also added more programming. They've added programming for teens, and they've created a TOTS program called Building Blocks for TOTS. So here are their expenditures. As you can see, as a service provider, just like us, their number one expense is personnel. This is currently budgeted for next year at $2.7 million. And then it's followed by their program materials and commodities for their programming, and that's at a cost of $578,000. And then they have revenues. And as you can see, their revenue chart is much, much different than the village's revenue chart. Their primary source of funding is property taxes, and only a very, very small portion, that you can see less than 3% of their revenues come from other sources such as grants. However, revenues are budgeted at an amount sufficient to cover the expenses for the library, as you can see at that $4.2 million. And that concludes my presentation. Library Director Pam Dubay is ready for any questions, as I am as well.
Thank you so much. And we welcome our Library Director, Pam Dubay, here in our audience. Any questions from board members, please? Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any members of the public that are here with us this evening that would like to ask any questions or have comments or testimony on this item? In the budget? Okay. Thank you all, and I'm going to please ask to have a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Page, and a second.
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 Trustee Blair and Trustee Krusek. Going to ask our clerk if you would please call the roll.
Trustee Krusek,
Aye.
trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair,
Aye.
trustee Abbott.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the public comment portion of our agenda this evening. And then I'm going to note here just for a moment, let's see here. Going to go to the comments that are not related to the agenda this evening. I'm going to pause and acknowledge any written public comments that have been received prior to our meeting that do not relate to the agenda on this evening. Going to ask for any of those comments, please, Administrator Stonich.
Thank you, Mayor. We received one written comment from Edward Earhart regarding Comcast cable service and also desiring to see an expansion of AT&T fiber in the village. That item, public comment, pardon me, has been entered into the record, and board members have all received copies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now going to ask if anyone in the public here would like to address the village board with any comments that are not related to tonight's agenda. Seeing no one, will go ahead and now move to comments that are related to our agenda this evening. Going to pause and ask if there's any written public comments that have been received. Administrator Stonich?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We received a number of public comments with respect to the proposed gas and wash annexation and development at Lamont and Davie Road. I'll go through that list briefly here. From Denise Wynand, Frank Lentine, Allison Hunter, Lillian Robalewski, pardon me, Mark Robalewski, and Jim Weenand. Those comments have all been provided to the village board, and they will be entered into the public record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now going to again offer to our public here that is with us, if you wish to make a comment at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one additional written comment two actually, one from Sue Sealander and another from John Sealander. And this is in reference to the Finans Animal Hospital in Lamont Road, which is on tonight's agenda just a little later on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we will actually move to tonight's omnibus agenda. Going to ask for a motion, please, to approve items A and B and the acceptance of item C. A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Page. A second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. Is there a request for any item to be separately considered this evening? Trustee Krusek, you're okay? Okay. Al, if you would please review the items for us.
Thank you, Mayor. First item A, Resolution 2022-94, resolution to adopt the FY 2020 annual financial reports for Seven Bridges Golf Club, covering the calendar year ending December 31st, 2021. Item B, Resolution 2022-95 is a resolution authorizing the Village of Woodridge to enter into a legal services agreement with Robbins DeMonte Attorneys at Law. And then last item C are the accounts payable registers for November 11th and November 18th, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam
Going-
Mayor?
Yes, please.
May I make a comment? I'm sorry, there's a correction and it's my mistake. It should be adopting the fiscal 2021 annual financial reports for Seven Bridges. I
Okay,
apologize.
2021. Okay. Oh, I
Yes.
see it now. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a scrivener's error, and as such, the item that's in the agenda packet,
Is
which
the
was
correct
made
one.
public, is sufficient, so we'll just note it for the record.
Okay, thank you so much. Going to ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair,
Aye.
trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We're going to move right along to our administrator's report this evening. Administrator Stonich.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Good evening. Item A, Resolution 2022-96, resolution waiving the competitive bidding process and authorizing the village administrator to execute a certain agreement between the Village of Woodridge and Standard Industrial and Auto Equipment, Inc. for the purchase and installation of one replacement mechanic bay vehicular lift and for our public works garage. This bid amount is for a cost of $27,995. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Going to ask please for a motion to approve resolution 2022-96.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Page and trustee Krusek. Any discussion on this item? If our clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Blair,
Aye.
trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek,
Aye.
trustee Page.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor, the following next three items, item B, item C, item D, all relate to the proposed gas and wash development and annexation for the properties located near the intersection of Lamont Road and Davie Road. All three agenda items are being proposed this evening to be continued to the December 15th village board meeting at 7 p.m.
I'm going to go ahead and have an omnibus motion then for items B, C, and D to continue those items, again, B, C, and D, to our December 15th village board meeting. Asking for a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Blair. Any discussion on this item? If our clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair,
Aye.
trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item E, ordinance 2022-65, an ordinance adopting an annual budget for the Village of Woodridge for all corporate purposes in lieu of an annual appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2023. Staff does not have an additional presentation. However, Director Leto is available for any additional questions that the board may have.
So at this point, I'd like to ask any board members if you have any questions related to this item. Okay, anyone need anything further? Okay, thank you. So we have before us ordinance 2022-65. Going to ask for a motion to approve that ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Page. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. Any discussion on this item? If our clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Blair,
Aye.
trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek,
Aye.
trustee Page.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item F is ordinance 2022-66 is an ordinance amending the village code of the village of Woodridge, Title 7, Chapter 5, Section 7-5D2, water service rates and charges. This item is being proposed, Mayor, to be continued to the December 15th village board meeting.
Yes, thank you very much. So I am proposing to the village board that we please continue this agenda item regarding the proposed FY 2023 water sewer rates to our December 15th board meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Blair. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. And if there's no discussion on this item, if our clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair,
Aye.
trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item this evening, next two items are related, but first item G, ordinance 2022-69, the Fine and Animal Hospital, 7940 Lamont Road. It's a text amendment to add a veterinary office as a special use in the ORI zoning district. Director Kimberly Clark has a brief presentation for the board this evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Great. So real brief, as Al said, we have a proposal on Lamont Road here. Back in November 7th, the Plan Commission held a public hearing to hear Dr. April Finnan's proposal here for a new animal hospital that she would like to construct here on Lamont Road at 7940 Lamont. You can see there in the red box is a little brief indicator of where the property is. To the south, we have some homes and some vacant land, and also we have our about 100,000 square foot multi-tenant center where we have our Keystone Brewery located in there. And so it's about where they're going to locate. Just north of them is actually a pipeline, and then north of that is where CubeSmart is. They're proposing a farmhouse style construction, trying to make it more welcoming to their guests and a home-like feel. And to the below the picture, you'll see the site plan. They have a parking lot in the front with the building, the one-story building in the back, and parking in the rear as well, and then detention. And the rest of the land will just be kind of left native. There are wetlands on the property, which is also requiring the building to be closer up front. And it's the site plan will also be taking in consideration the property to the south, which is a home. There'll be landscaping and screening, but as the area develops, we eventually will see that to the south, this area will probably develop for commercial use as well. So the applicant is seeking to construct about a 6,500 square foot, one-story veterinarian office, and it spans 2 lots that were initially for single-family homes. And in order to have the use at this location, they're actually having to amend our zoning code as a veterinarian use is not permitted in the ORI. So that is the first agenda item you'll be making as the text amendment. And then the next ordinance will be granting the special use for the veterinarian office. The comprehensive plan calls for redevelopment in this area south of the pipeline to consolidate lots, minimize curb cuts, reduce truck traffic, and significant landscape buffering, of which this proposal will be accomplishing these goals. And again, the applicant identifies as a veterinarian office rather than a hospital because of the hours of operation are limited to 12 hours or less. We currently permit veterinarian offices in the B1, B2, and B3, OSB, and RBC by right, and animal hospitals are currently permitted in B2 and B3. We believe the proposed text amendment is consistent with zoning districts that generally allow the same range of uses. And though staff has recommended the text amendment includes veterinarian office as special use rather than allowed by right, that's just to ensure the design and operations are in harmony with the neighboring community. Plan Commission reviewed favorably, unanimously recommending for the text amendment as well as the special use and site plan approval. We have the architect, Michael Mathis, here as well, if there's any other specific questions that I may not be able to answer, but hopefully you get a good oversight of what they're looking to do. And here's quickly all of the recommendations and requests as part of this proposal.
Well, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any questions from any board members at this time? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have before us ordinance 2022-69. This is on the text amendment. I could please have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-69. Trustee
moved.
Abbott, thank you very much. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Page. Any discussion on this item? If our clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek,
Aye.
trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Last item and the related item, H ordinance 2022-70. Finnan Animal Hospital, 7940 Lamont Road. This is the special use permit for a veterinary office in an ORI district. Site plan approval, variations, and lot consolidation.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2022-70.
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Blair. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Abbott. Any discussion on this item? If our clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Abbott,
Aye.
trustee Krusek,
Aye.
trustee Page,
Aye.
trustee Blair,
Aye.
motion passes.
Wonderful, thank you. If we have no further active agenda items or unfinished or new business to come before the board as we adjourn here this evening, we as a village and board wish to thank you, all of our neighbors, for connecting with us and staying connected. It makes all the difference. We want you to please take good care and shop local, and please do shop Woodridge. With no further business to discuss this evening, I would like to please ask for a motion to adjourn our regular board meeting. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Page. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. We are adjourned. It is 7:33 PM. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.